Hey, this is Content Crisis. I'm Tyler,
And I'm Jason.
and this is Halloween 3, and I am so eager to get your opinions on this one.
See, I had a whole kind of spiel kind of planned in the beginning. There was it's either 2006 or 2011 movie called Season of the Witch starring Nic Cage.
Oh, no.
And I was going to cold open with that and be like, so let's talk about Nic Cage and Season of the Witch.
Uh-huh.
It's that Vietnam flashback to the time I watched the wrong Bond movie.
Uh-huh.
But we're going to move on through that.
We're just going to get right... Okay. All right. So I do want to start with your likes and dislikes before we get to anything, just because I am eager to hear what you thought of this movie.
I really enjoy a lot of the concepts involved with this movie, right? So just with kind of what they were going for, right? We were going to go for this kind of anthology, it's just these various stories that are all kind of self-contained rather than it all being the continuation. That was kind of the general thought, right? Once we got to Season of the Witch. So I like that core concept. That's a cool thing to do. And then I just really liked people being replaced by robots and whatever the mechanical thing. The sheer concept of that is the neatest thing ever. And I like the concept of primarily focused on killing children. I like that being our evil plot, right?
Yeah.
So it's just all of those concepts were really good. The execution of all of these concepts and
Not
kind
so
of
good.
Just these really dull-ass characters and a very inconsequential narrative around all of these concepts really fucked this up for me.
Yeah.
I really was okay, I see the plan. It's all coming together. Logically, this should have been a pretty cool movie, right?
Right.
And it just wasn't. And I mostly blame it on Dan. I fucking hate Dan. I'm going to go into a lot of rambles about him, but fuck that guy.
Yeah. As far as my likes, I'm on my second page. As far as my likes and dislikes, it pretty much mirrors, because I do love that concept. That whole idea when they did that first Michael Myers movie, we're gonna do a Halloween movie every year, and then they wanted Michael Myers back, so they do Halloween 2, and then he kills Michael Myers in Halloween 2, and he's like, okay, can't do any more Michael Myers. He's dead. I'm doing a new story now, and then they get to 4, and they're like, yeah, 3 kind of bombed, and we really want Michael Myers back. This just isn't going to work without Michael. And, I hate that happened, because, or at least if, you were going to move on to number 4 and you were going to bring Michael back, why not tie this in some way? Because, both Halloween 2 and this kind of bring up that Sam Hain cult deal.
Yeah.
And so why not tie that in and be like, oh, well, at the end of 3, that... maybe Ellie survived or something. She was like, I'm going to resurrect Michael Myers because she's had she's gone the other way when she was in captivity. I don't know. There's tie it in.
Logical ways to put this together is the problem, right? We could make this better. We the people could make this make sense.
The people can make Halloween 4.
Yeah.
So again, I love the concept. I think it would have been awesome. As much as I like just the Halloween series and the whole Michael Myers continuing saga as a fun thing, they're not fantastic movies after number 1.
Yeah.
I really don't like that she calls him Papa the whole movie when referring to her father. So that sucks. And the pacing, again, as you said, we're pretty much mirrored in this. And why were they going to kill her dad in the first place? Because, what went wrong during that transaction? Did he come to them with some suspicion? We don't really go into that. It's just hey, I'm here to pick up some mess. Oh, my God!
So they talked about, it's what happened to, was it Bridget or whatever? What the fuck her name is. Lady who was in the motel with them. Yeah. So, it was what happened? Misfire. Right? So I have to imagine, he goes to pick up his delivery, and, one of the guys just looks at it and has his face fucking melted.
Yeah.
And then one of the robot dudes is just misfire. And then they all look at Papa.
Yeah, he's standing in the background.
And he's just
what?
I didn't see anything. I'm going to go now.
Right. So, if we could go... and also, so we kind of talked about this last year briefly in our Halloween Timelines pod, or it was called Halloween Season Overview. It's number 76. So if you want to kind of know about the Halloween different timelines and everything, Number 76, Constant Crisis, was last year. Check it out. Maybe not. Whatever. But having watched it last year, I really wanted to go into it. Which takes us to Rotten Tomatoes. And I think you looked at the screen. So
I did, and I ruined the whole damn thing.
But funny that, so 50% from the official critics.
Yeah. Which is shocking to me. I mean,
I'm surprised it was that high, honestly. Yeah. The audience score, 28%. No surprise there.
Yeah, that feels right.
That feels very right. So I do like some of the reviews here. We have this movie is a dirty trick on all Halloween fans. Absolute. See, rare in these Rotten Tomatoes reviews is there's so many bad. Like, they usually try to throw a bunch of good and they'll sprinkle like one or two in. There's a lot of bad on this front page.
Justifiably so.
Yeah. Absolutely atrocious. I admire the fact that they did try to propel the story in a different direction, but the story they chose was insanely boring. This is one of the identikit movies assembled out of familiar parts from other better movies.
Honestly.
Lee Wallace's directorial debut has some effective atmosphere, a solid cast led by the great Tom Atkins, and a fantastic final scene, but it's also overlong and too slow at times. Nailed it. The good ones. Mr. Wallace clearly has a fondness for the cliches he is parodying and does it with style. It has taken 40 years for Halloween 3 to gain the cult status it rightfully deserves. Next time that Silver Shamrock commercial plays, always remember, kids, take those masks off. 4.5 out of 5 from that guy.
Fuck.
Cannot match the first Halloween, but Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is still a solid piece of horror filmmaking. See, all right. I don't agree with that. I do think it's fun. Like, the whole, because it does have like a cult following.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of fun. You know, I would like to imagine these. What kind of ruins it for me is I would like to imagine this in the same universe as like the first Halloween and the second Halloween, right? You know, in this kind of era.
Well, it's loosely connected because we saw a commercial for it on the TV.
Well, right. And so, like, but if they were in the same universe, then you're not going to have the fucking movie of the first one, right?
Yeah.
Like, that will have just been an event that happened in Illinois while you're sitting here in California and go like, oh, that was maybe, I don't know.
It was just like, I think, a cheap way to get the cameo and the reference in, right?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? They're just like, hey, like, we shot the whole movie, but we don't have like a tie-in to the rest of this. Do we want to throw something in? Just throw a commercial in. It'll be fine.
Right. I don't know. I hated that. I don't know, the whole pacing thing. If you watch the first Halloween, it is kind of that like slow
burn, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of walking around, but there's always this impending threat of Michael Myers.
Yeah, you get several of those like looming him in the background shots, or like we focus in on him, or we catch him out of the corner of the eye, and then he's suddenly gone.
Right.
Like, it sets that tone very clearly for us that there is impending something coming for you. That's how you build tension.
Right.
Right?
And like it's like he just shot it the same style with this one, but there was no impending threat unless, I mean, the only parallel you could really draw is like, oh, well, I mean, Silver Shamrock commercial was on the whole time, you know, like in every corner, and you're like, well.
That is like how you carry a concept through, right? You get something that's unassuming, it comes up, and then it ends up being relevant later on, and then you can try and, you know, when you go back and watch through it again, try and make it make sense.
Right.
But yeah, it's like really the only things that, like, as far as like audio cues and kind of like that screen focusing on was on the commercials and in the scenes where we saw the masks early on, right? But like that was the only like tension building thing, and we didn't have any reason to know why that would have been tension building to begin with
for a
so
long time.
So like it falls so much because of that, and like I said, it's in that same style, but because we don't have that clear impending doom coming, you know, why do we care?
Right. Yeah. So if we move to our bad section here, my bad trailer, I had a couple ideas. The first two just felt lazy, but I thought of them in the moment, and I have a third one that I put a little more thought into. Just Tibetan monk reenactment, you know, with the guy in the car.
Yeah.
/ also casino reenactment, because there's that one scene in Casino, he gets blown out of the car. So there's that. Again, lazy, I know. I just thought of them immediately. But for the trailer, I thought you could kind of shoot this as like, you know, a new couple in town has trouble fitting in. you know, and so you use a lot of the footage of them driving around, everybody kind of peeking out the
Staring,
window and
yeah.
shit. You know, I feel like a fish in a bowl or whatever. So I thought that'd be pretty funny. And then they're, you know, meeting the new wacky neighbors, you know, the people in the RV and the person that almost hits them and everything.
All right, I see it.
So, yeah, that's what I thought for that.
Sure. So this is the start of my hating Dan. So I want to frame this as Dan just being an absolute piece of shit, destroying his family. Right? That's what I wanted out of this. So I wanted the shots of him drinking. I wanted the shots of him hooking up with Ellie, and they're all like right next to the scenes of him calling his wife and like showing up at his house talking to his kids.
Yeah.
And it, you know, we ignore the fact that it's his ex-wife and just try to frame it as like Dan being just a dog shit person to his wife, his kids.
Bottle, and then he's on the phone like, "No, I'm not drunk."
Yes, like that's exactly what I'm looking for. I want him to look like the biggest shitbag possible, and it can be done.
I mean, he's a shitbag.
Yeah,
he's definitely a shitbag.
Fucking hate Dan.
So bad summary. I wanted to focus on just like the ridiculousness of the villain here. So I just said, guy figured out robots and he wants to sacrifice children. It's just like why? Why are those two related? You figured out robots. Like, we're not even going to spend any time on like, you know, hey, like it's 82, you know, robots aren't really a thing.
Yeah.
You know, we're just going straight to, well, there's robots. I don't know. That's kind of just like a year later.
Yeah.
You know, because I said something about that in the timeline one. Where I was like, he just like figured out robots apparently.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I mean, it's like Skynet, right? You know, it's like maybe there was a time traveling thing that was planned on like the next one, you know, where they drop in some robot blueprints and that's where he picked this stuff up at.
Sure.
Or, you know, if we take the Stonehenge rock being as the monolith from 2001 A Space Odyssey, potentially that filled his mind with the infinite knowledge to be able to create said robots.
It's
in their autonomy.
Form.
Yeah.
You know, it's the Stonehenge rock. It's
Yeah.
not the model. Yeah. That's funny. For bad casting. No, you didn't do a summary. I'm sorry.
So bad summaries. I had two of these. So first one was a brief study on the effects of TV and sensationalism on children. Right? So it's the commercials and the mass and, you know, just pumping their brains full of garbage.
It's so bad. Like bugs and snakes start coming out.
That's really what it was. This was just like a warning to, you know, don't let your kids watch as much TV.
Yeah.
And then the other one was shitbag doctor takes dead patient's daughter on a dangerous weekend getaway.
Yeah, that about sums it up.
And then the last one was fuck Dan.
Fuck you. Hey, how would you summarize this movie?
Fuck Dan. I would watch a movie if that was all I could get out of somebody. It was like, oh, what was that movie?
Yeah, I'll
like?
watch
like,
it,
fuck this dude. And you're like, all right.
Can I borrow it? Yeah. So casting, I'm sticking with my, you know, just look at movies from the same year. Rocky 3 was in 82, so I like Stallone as Dan, you know, and he's still talking like Rocky and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, hey, Ellie, your dad died. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah.
You know,
and that works out so well because I just pictured the phone calls of him trying to like not go off on his ex-wife with her just bitching at him constantly.
No, I'm not drunk. Oh shit, the people in the way. No, I'm not drunk. I'm not. No, listen.
Like he would not be able to sell himself.
Listen. Hey, listen to me. Hey.
He would not be able to sell it at all. He would just always sound rough. That's good.
My favorite's like the Rocky 2 Rocky, where he's like, hey, Adrian, son, if you wouldn't mind marrying me too much.
Yeah.
I was like, that's how I love. We're gonna go through Rocky. It's fine. I love those. It's just because each one gets more and more ridiculous, and he never learns how to box really until
or
like 4.
Enunciate.
Or enunciate, and he's just like, "Hey, you should maybe stop getting hit." And he's like, "Okay." He just always gets hit right in the face. We're not doing Rocky. Okay, so Stallone was Dan. Fast Times at Ridgemont High was the same year. I want to throw Sean Penn in as Cochran.
Okay.
And then E.T. was that year, so let's just be fucking weird and make E.T. Ellie.
No!
He's
we still keep the sex scene
and
everything.
He's in bed. Yeah. You know, he's like, who cares? He's burying his face in E.T.'s chest.
Oh my god. That would actually be incredible. That would be incredible. So for some reason, I really wanted Chuck Norris to be Dan. I think it was just the mustache and kind of that general look, but I just wanted like an overly dramatic Chuck Norris as Dan, and I thought that would fit in pretty well. But then what I also wanted was if we actually take Michael Myers and make him Dan, and it's just shrugs and sighs, no actual verbal communication, but it's still the entire plot, and everyone treats it as normal. But he's still got the jumpsuit and the mask on and everything.
Just a very apathetic Michael Myers. Just like, you know, and he's in bed with her, and like, what was that? And he just like,
yeah, what was that? And you can do so much with that, because I'm thinking like a sex scene or something where the mask is on backwards or something. And she's just going in on.
Oh, shit.
Oh, man.
That's good.
Oh, that is good. And then also, I thought it'd be fun if we put Sean Connery in as Cochran. Why not?
Duh. My name is Connell, and he's like spends too much time on the cock and that. He's like, my name is Connell Cochran.
Yes.
Like, okay, nice to meet you, Connell Cochran. Cochran.
Okay.
Got it, dude. I got it. All right. So, what was your first, discussion point?
First discussion point. This is not really a Halloween movie, just in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't really have a lot of what kind of ties me to those things. And I know it's because we went
the concept of Halloween in general, not specifically like the Halloween movies.
Right.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it's like, okay, we got masks. It just happens to be we're playing a commercial. Like the Halloween concept really has nothing in this outside of like Cochran just saying like, oh yeah, like 3,000 years ago there were these like, rituals and stuff we did at Stonehenge and it was neat. So now we're just gonna kill a bunch of kids right now. And he mentioned a lot of animals dying too. Yeah. I don't know if the plan was to also stick the masks on some dogs or something just to get the body count in there, but I
mean, he should have had like dog Halloween costumes if that was the case. You know
what I mean? Missed opportunities.
Really missing the market.
Yeah. Really missing the market here. And it's just such a shame because like if he had waited until now where like it was just that much easier to like sensationalize something or make something go viral, you'd kill way more kids. People love dressing their dogs up now. You'd be a very successful sacrifice. The wheat harvest is going to be great this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just ridiculous.
That's a very fair point. And also the thing with, man, I hate that when I was like, I had a thing and then by the end of your thing, I just forget. It's like, no, I had it,
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. I had a thing to add on to that. And, man, I'm just not, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. Just moving on. All right. Well, my main question, which we kind of, covered in the likes and dislikes. What the fuck happened during that pickup?
Yeah. I don't know, man.
So we'll skip by that one. Since we did kind of talk about it, but just the concept of like, I am here to pick up my mess. Oh my god!
Like there has,
but he also knew that they were trying to kill everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So at the same time, like what was that transaction? Did he walk into something he wasn't supposed to?
Yeah.
But I like.
Or was he in like full stealth mode or something and was just like, I'm here to pick up a package. Like maybe he was doing the same shit that Ellie and Dan were doing.
Sure.
And they were.
But how does he catch on?
Yeah.
Because the whole reason they catch on
misfire.
Is because, well,
it had to have been a misfire.
But the only reason they're there in the first place, is her dad's dead, and then the people came to kill him. So I want to know how the fuck he figured it out.
Yeah.
But I still love the idea of like, just like. One dude's holding a chart running at him. And he sees the whole plan. And then the other dude's like, I'm going to kill you. And then it's like, oh my God. And then he ran like 200 miles back to fucking wherever the fuck
there had to have been like just a staff meeting that day. It was just like, because maybe Cochran was like, hey, let's go do the tour or whatever. And they get into that back warehouse part. And that's where that team meeting's like, so we're going to go through. All the kids are going to put the masks on. We play the commercial. And then their brains melt and a bunch of bugs fall out of them.
What's your name?
Are you new? Are you new? Can we kill him?
But he's still like fully into the mic. Hey, can we kill him? Yeah, I don't know. Lots of events that day. I don't know. The other talking point. Well, no, we kind of hit that one too, honestly. So why don't you just go?
So let's talk about the Stonehenge rock, and they were talking about how it weighed like 5 pounds or something, right? So it's a big ass rock. Number one, I looked up and did some math, and like 5 tons worth of like gravel, goes in like those kind of big trucks, but it still doesn't look like a lot of rock.
Yeah.
So I'm really questioning how the fuck they did get that rock from Stonehenge all the way over here.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of like the small amount of like the magician never reveals his secrets, where he's like, "Oh, you'll never guess how we got it here," and he's like doing the tease because he's like, "We also don't know how it got here. Please don't ask me that." But I like to think that some level of supernatural powers, or maybe just the robots being really strong, and they just like get a 20 army of just dudes carrying it around and nobody questions it somehow.
I like the idea that maybe he really wants to say like he's got this big piece of equipment that'll lift this big heavy thing.
Yeah.
And he keeps going like, "Oh, you never guess," and he's waiting for somebody to ask.
He's
him.
got a whiteboard. He's just ready to flip over with like how he did it.
And then fucking Dan, he's just like, yeah, like it's like, oh, okay. It's like, are you sure?
The tour
you
finishes
sure you
up.
don't want to
Cochran's
know?
just like, damn it! I'll never get to tell anyone.
It was the last guy.
Years of prep work. Poor guy.
I got out of straight edge and everything.
Look how good this graph is.
Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Yes, I've seen it, sir. It's very nice. Look at it.
Poor Cochran.
Cochran. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, do you have any sequel ideas? Because I think we're past, like, can we fix this movie?
Sure.
All right, well, okay. Let's discuss, can we fix this movie?
We can. All right. So here's what you do. You have to set up something that's at least worthwhile to bait us in the beginning that gets us to the end, right? So I think we need to have something where it's like,
okay,
no, you go. You're going to lose it.
I think we can still have this concept, but we need to introduce it way earlier. Right. So like we know at the beginning of Halloween that Michael Myers is a killer and he's in a mental asylum and then he's out and then we're like, oh fuck, right?
Sure.
But what we need to do is we need to have that test video as kind of the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
When they kill Billy and his like weird ass family, his weird mom and dad,
right?
Which like we got to get into them a little bit. But like, let's have that. They're sitting down. Oh, what's this guy? Like, Dad, I gotta go to the bathroom. Honestly, you have that whole scene, and then that's the first thing in the movie, and his fucking head melts, and the bugs and the snakes come out, and you're like, what the fuck?
Right.
And then you see the masks later, and you're like, oh fuck, that's the head melt masks, right? Or the fucking the bug nest thing.
No, that's honestly perfect. That sets us up.
Cut some of our gaps.
Right. But no, that's exactly what it does. It gives us that context in the beginning, but we don't know why it matters yet. We get the hints and the clues. We get the commercial playing 24/7. We get the ominous cuts of the mask, and that really does do us a lot of wonder here, right? And just saying this is what to look out for. Here's you figuring it out halfway through,
right?
And then how do they handle that? Because
Yes.
that all being kind of shoved towards like that, middle end-ish of just being like, oh, by the way, the mask will blow up your brain. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's garbage.
Yeah. Okay, my sequel idea is Dr. Chalice, right? He's got there's some like complicated shit that happens after after all that happens, right?
Sure.
So
his kids are definitely dead. Okay. Go for it.
So the wife, the ex-wife, sorry, gets off the phone with him, motherfucker, and she's all pissed, right? And she's like, all right, well, it's like 8:59 and, and she's like, you know what? Go to bed, kids. it's time to go to bed. And they're like, oh, Mom, you know, they're still wearing their masks.
Yeah.
Go to bed, right?
But
This
Mom's
is
a like
hard
ass, so she'd be
She's very much
laying
a
down
hard
the
ass.
law.
Yeah. And this is kind of like a cutscene, maybe, I guess. The beginning of maybe it's how you begin Halloween. We'll call it 3.5.
Sure.
Right, because 4 is taken. 3.5 results of the witch. I don't know. I don't know what you call it, but so kids are fine, right? Ex-wife's fine. She stays up. She is like, what's this stupid thing? Puts it on. Dun, 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 dun. You know, her face melts, right?
Love it.
You know, dead mom. Chalice comes back.
Love dead
He's
moms.
got to take care. He's got to take care. He's got to take
no
care
better
of the
way to
kids,
tell
though.
a story than with a dead mom. It always works.
Well, but yeah, so that concept of the flip,
Yeah.
right? Of like, oh, the kids, not the kid, and then it's like, oh, okay, everybody's fine. Wait, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, fucking, you know, so he's got to come back. He takes care of the kids. On top of that, you know, Ellie somehow survived the explosion and all that. Like, maybe she got out. She was already working on a way out, and then, you know, the factory goes up. And,
Sure.
Okay, so then how it's covered on TV is Dr. Chalice was actually in on it with, you know, Cochran, right? Because it's like, well, how did you know? Well, you know, I think you were in on it with him. You blew up the factory, and you had remorse for, you know, everything. You didn't want all that to happen. So you ran off. You phoned somebody. You know, which, by the way, he phoned what? The Grand Wizard of Television?
Yeah, they
Who
have
the fuck is he on the phone with?
They have a direct line. It had to have just been the local broadcasting station, right?
Sure.
Because if you remember when he was on the phone, he was like, you know, it's still on the 3rd channel. There were only 3 channels, right? So it had to have been a local.
Yeah, 82, right?
Yeah, so it had to have been a local broadcasting station that, like, maybe they have a line like that, you know, to where that was possible.
I guess that is more plausible, yeah.
But just
guess I
that
was
they would
thinking of-
believe it, right? Like, what any drunk ass could call in
Oh,
and just
yeah.
take TV off the air for the night. You know what I mean?
You mean if I'm motivated enough, I can call, and I have enough commitment to the act that I could get a Chipotle commercial to turn off.
I think so.
The green peppers, they're gonna melt their eyes.
If you just believe, I think you could pull it off. You might still go to jail, but you might pull it off once.
Yeah. But could you even call that inducing public panic? Because, I mean, you know, like, you just induced a panic in one guy, you know, who just pressed a button that was like, we're experiencing technical. He's like, no, that's crazy shit, man. You're really scaring me.
I don't know. There's got to be some level of, like, because it's a public broadcasting kind of thing. If you're trying to
Ad
spread
revenues.
misinformation,
Yeah.
you know, that could be a thing.
Yeah. So basically, he's made out to be, you know,
An accomplice,
in on
basically.
it. Yeah. Who just a remorseful accomplice who just at the end was like, no.
Yeah. I regret everything.
I regret everything. Yeah, Ellie, fucking, you know, Ellie comes back. You know, she's like that motherfucker. He was in on it the whole time. She believes the news. You know, he was in on it the whole time. So
Which
then she
honestly would kind of make sense. Way too convenient that they all got wrapped up, but
she believes it. She believes that. She starts going like, you know, almost Michael Myers style, but like she's not quite as, you know,
right.
You know,
She's just doing her revenge arc.
right. So she kills the kids. She kills all the girls he flirts with. She kills Charlie the bartender. You know, which we won't get into the bar, but he's day drinking. He's drinking at like first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and then he flips on a football game, and you're like, the football game in '82. Like, there's no NFL Network. They're replaying football games anyway. So she kills the kids, Charlie the bartender, all the girls he flirts with, and finally gets to him, and he thinks he's gonna die, but then she just wants to bang.
Oh no!
Right? So then they
Then we
bang.
just get some awkward hate fucking.
Hold on. So they bang, and it's everything they both want it to be. But then, last second, Basic Instinct style, she fucking, you know.
Yeah.
And that's how this movie ends.
So the alternate take on that is as she's fucking him, she puts the mask on him and has like the VHS or something set to play,
man.
so he melts him as she's fucking him.
If only there was like a tablet at that time that she could just like.
Well, so that kind of leads me into my next point, and how the fuck do the buttons work? Right? So, like, is it an audio cue, which is kind of what I was thinking initially, because the button's on the back of the fucking mask, right?
Right.
So it's like, it's not like it's picking up any kind of visual thing. So I have to think it's like an audio frequency, something being sent through.
Right.
And that's why it was able to work through the radio, presumably, right?
Right.
So that's what I was picturing in my head. So it's like, if it's just like an audio thing, then yeah, maybe, flap the radio on and, he explodes while you're fucking him kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, we've got a little, motherboard chip thing. And then we've got, like, we're just, like, putting dust from the rock in there. And, like, somehow the whatever audio is playing through this recording that's being mad compressed through the broadcast is still going to trigger... What is it? What?
Yeah.
The portal to hell that opens up, like, a death beam and also snakes and bugs?
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like, it's literally like a fucking... face-melting bug nest?
Well, it's inconsistent, right? So it's like with Bridget,
right?
It fucking, melted
her face.
the front of her face, and then
one bug.
Yeah, a singular bug came out. And then with the kid, little Bud, hit the mask, like, melted around him.
Right.
And then,
I imagine his face is, like, melted within.
Yeah, you could see a little bit behind it.
The whole thing kind of flattens.
Yeah.
And then all the shit starts coming out. But a swarm.
Yeah.
And multiple snakes.
So, like, my head is like, okay, so is this, like a portal to hell or something? And, it's just full of, like, death beams and snakes and shit.
Right.
Like, because that would kind of make sense.
Then,
but, like, wouldn't that have been a thing to give context to or tease earlier on in this story? Because, like, to me, I can piece this together. I'm thinking it's an audio-related thing that's in the thing that sets it off, and it does something. But, like, with this dude's technology to explain not how the robots came about, to explain not how the little chip and the button works.
Yeah.
It's like, it was so wasteful of, like, what could have been cool and could have given us potential energy for that sequel, right?
Right.
Like, it's so wasteful.
Yeah, well, and the other inconsistencies, then it just zaps all the fucking scientists.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have any bugs or snakes or face meltings. They're just faces get zapped, excuse me.
Yeah.
And
no one's melted, no one's, like, deformed or anything. It's just like, ooh, a little bit of electrical interference.
And it gets the fucking AI dudes over on the stairs.
Yeah.
But fucking Cochran, who's 10 feet away, doesn't
fine.
get zapped once.
Yeah.
And then he just gets fucking, I guess he ascends into...
What? Like, what? His face goes, like, it looks like plaster. I fully expected his head to, like, explode in that, right? Like, his face, like, went white, like, it looked like plaster. And I was expecting it to explode in a splash of bugs and snakes and shit, right?
Yeah.
That would have been lit. But instead, he just, like, apparates away.
Yeah.
And we don't know why.
No clue.
No, he's just been absorbed into the monolith.
The monolith.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden he's like, baby Dave's out there by Earth, and then he's just right there, and he's all fucking, plastered up, just looking at Earth with baby Dave.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for 2002: A Space Odyssey coming out next year.
Now it'd have to be like 2100: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. Anyway. Okay. For a second, I just want to spend a second on the little monologue from Cochran where he's talking about how his way of life in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
And the sacrifices and everything, right? And I just have like some alternate dialogue here, So it's like, it was part of our world, our craft. And then, Dan's over there and he's like, witchcraft. And he's like, to us, I'm sorry. Just to be clear, when you said witchcraft, you meant witchcraft as in like witches and such? Or you meant like witchcraft as in like maybe carpentry or welding or something like that? And he's like, witchcraft. He's like, very good, very good.
Carry on.
So I'm still not sure. So to us, I'm still not sure you're getting it. We are talking about witchcraft, right?
Like, it's just the overabundance of, like, I need to be clear on what we're talking about before we move forward, because I don't want to misunderstand. And it's just, like, the frustration boiling with Cochran. He's like, witchcraft! Big pointy hat! Broomstick! Cauldrons of green goo! Witchcraft!
Do you get it? Witchcraft. Yes or no? Yes or no? Witchcraft.
My father was a mason, though.
So, I mean, obviously, I that's like half of this fucking podcast is me going, okay, well, what if, he was, really stupid and he just,
But, like, that's a fucking bit, right? You just, like, interrupt and derail, like, the grand reveal with just, like, clarifying questions.
Yeah.
Because you always let them speak their whole thing, and it has to magically make sense by the end of it. But, like, the guy who's like, no, just to be clear, like, witchcraft or, like, witchcraft. I'm trying to make sure I'm following you. You've gone through a lot of effort here. I don't want it to go to waste.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, the boiling.
Just the repeated clip of him being like, whoa, wait, you do get it, right? And, like, Dan, and just, like, the repeated clip of Dan going, witchcraft. It's like, yes or no, sir? Anyway, what's your next thing?
That's too good. So I wanted to talk a little bit of just about the narrative structure in general, where it's like the story we're telling doesn't matter. Like, the characters that are involved, like us seeing the thing, the end result is still the same. The commercial still plays. Everyone still dies.
Right.
So it's like,
is that your takeaway? Like, they did not get it off the air?
Yeah, I think that third commercial stayed up. And not to mention,
and he just watched the kid in front of him die.
Yeah. Well, I was like, number one, like, spare no effort to turn that TV off and save that kid, right?
Right.
But, like, so number two, again, my head is in this is local broadcast, right? Yeah. So every other station that's playing this commercial, because, again, this is the greater California area at a minimum.
Right. A huge, huge, huge state.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, a lot of other people are definitely dead. Yeah. So no matter what, like, you're not preventing a whole lot. So it's like a lot of, like, we're shown a very inconsequential story. And, like, sometimes it's really cool to see just a slice out of a thing where it's like, it didn't matter what you did anyways. And you kind of find that out at the end, where it's like, oh, all this trial and struggle we went through and we're all going to die anyways. How do you feel about stories that get kind of told in that way, to where it's like the story we actually watch doesn't matter and what the story's actually about in any way?
How do I feel about that? Well,
I just, like, at the end of this one, it's just like, I very much felt like, well, so none of it mattered, right? Like, everyone who was going to die is probably going to die anyways, because, it got canceled on the 2 channels, and that kid immediately went to the only channel that was broadcasting it. And I have to imagine that's what everybody else is going to be doing. Everyone who's on the radio station is probably still going to be, playing the thing. So it's like,
because it must be the frequency, right?
So it's like So it's like all we really got out of this was context on why a bunch of people in California are going to be dead. And, like, that's what this movie was about. Right. Like, it wasn't stopping or, like, putting anything to rest. It wasn't like uncovering a greater plot that's going to come up later. It was just like it was just a small viewport into somebody else trying to figure out a shitty situation, and then the shitty situation still happening.
Yeah. Maybe that's the alternate beginning. Right. It's just like, all across California today, millions of children dead, and this, you see the carnage of, like, the, the kids and the flattened masks and the bugs and the snakes. And then you go, like, 1 week earlier, and it's, her dad.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's potential
like,
energy for that sequel prequel kind of thing, where we just get context to shows maybe why any of it mattered, or if there was stuff that happened in the background that, after this movie ends, that, life goes on in some normal way, or things get fixed. But
to your initial question, those stories I feel like are very, now again, that would be assuming that, the channel did not pull the recording.
And I have to, that's just the way I'm ending on it.
Of course, yeah. because and again, like that's your interpretation to have, right?
Yeah.
Because they leave it open to like, oh, what do you think, or maybe they pulled it and it was like just like seconds too late and kids melted,
which honestly would just be better from a attention perspective.
Yeah. Or like some of them have like a half melted face, and like there's like just like a snake coming out of their eye socket.
Oh no! Honestly, that would be so cool to do.
Yeah. So, so in terms of those stories, that's, I feel like just kind of the artistic expression of like, well, what is the point? We're all fucked anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of like the message, right? If you if you want to go that route, is like, it doesn't matter what you do; it's all fucked anyway. Yeah. Life's just a big.
You're gonna die one day.
Life's just a big shit salad, and doesn't matter what impact you make or, how much money you make, what good things you do. You're fucked anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not a fun way to think, but it's kind of like it's a realist way to think anyway. So I don't mind a story that ends like that.
Struggle
right?
for naught kind of thing.
Right.
I get it.
Whether anybody watches this or not, we're still gonna die one day.
Struggle or not.
Struggle or not. So, anyway, another sequel idea I thought would have also been if maybe there was some sort of like off-site thing going on, where maybe because of the whole Sam Hain cult thing, and that's related to Halloween, and maybe they don't show fucking Halloween. Like maybe John Carpenter doesn't show Halloween in his own fucking movie.
Yeah.
Granted somebody else directed it, but you know what I mean?
Fucking cheese.
But, maybe they were resurrecting Myers, right? And then that's the whole reason, 4 even happens. Right? Just the short point.
Yeah.
But anyway. Also, the desperation call from the warehouse. Do you think he still goes and tries to like call the TV stations and everything if his wife is just like, all right, I'll throw him away?
I don't know. I do think he kind of gets like that small sense of duty. At that point, he's the only guy who's burdened with that information and knows what's coming. So he probably still tries to, warn somebody.
Yeah.
And have that impact. But I think the initial, desperation exclusively comes from the kids. And probably if his wife wasn't such a bitch and he was a better person, maybe it'd be much clearer that he called the station first and not his wife and kids.
Right.
But
I have this.
It also would be kind of interesting if it was just he saves his kids and then everyone else dies, and then that's what like reconciles their marriage.
Yeah.
Like
I just have
you
this
do
feeling.
care.
I have this feeling that like if in that warehouse, if she just goes like, okay, he just goes, oh, thank God.
And that sigh is what alerts all the robots, and then they go over and kill him.
And he's just like, whatever, and he dies, and then all the fucking kids die except his. Here's another question, though.
All right.
If those chips are just like, on the masks, right? They're just in the trash can, and the fucking commercial plays. And it's like, do all the beams start like coming out of the trash can? And like you might have some, crossfire, people caught in the crossfire anyway.
Think about it from a distribution perspective, right? So it's like they've got to be on freight trucks. Like at this point, like shipments are actively happening right now, So it's like there's got to be just like across California, just a lot of confusion and carnage with like just random shit has exploded and filled with bugs.
Yeah, is it? I guess that's the better question. Is it the beams or does shit just start exploding? Like, does their trash can just combust in the kitchen all of a sudden? They're watching TV. You look over the kitchen. Boom! You're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, but it's got to like explode with bugs, right? It's got to be the laser that comes out and like melts something, but then also it just spawns like a splash of bugs and
just
snakes and
shit. A swarm of fucking cobras or what was rattlesnake in the room, right? So like seemingly that dude's wife died of, grief. Right? 'Cause she just passed out.
She passed out,
right?
but I'm sure one of the
she
snakes
stays
probably ate her or something.
And then he like gets bit on the pant leg.
Yeah.
And then he just goes like, oh, and falls over.
Yeah. Yeah, probably just stress or anything makes them like pass out and then they get ate by the bugs. But yeah, I thought that was just like the cheesiest reaction to, oh no, my son's face has been melted and also there's bugs.
Right. I mean, it is like you think this movie's gonna be so much cooler when you like talk about like a bad trailer for a movie, bad first image for a movie. Like if you look at the cover of this movie, it's just like that fucking face up top, and the Halloween 3's above it.
Yeah.
And you see like 3 kids trick or treating, and you're like, seemingly no idea. Like you're thinking like there's witches involved.
Yeah.
It's like no, it's witchcraft.
Yeah.
Witchcraft, Jason.
I don't know. I'm masonry. He's a log worker. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that. I said something. I don't know. Anyway, you got any more points?
I have just a little bit of stuff kind of around the end, right? So I really love Dan being on the phone with his ex-wife and telling her to shut the fuck up and turn the TV off. Just the conversation in general just feels so good because of Dan being so like a big bitch to his wife, to his ex-wife, and just taking her being just full of venom, and then just being like, shut the fuck up, okay? Like, it felt so good just for him to be doing that in like these gasped whispers, and
he's like panicked too, so he's like sounds like he's like crying. He's like, shut the fuck up with that.
Fucking put you turn the TV off. Oh, it was so good. The fucking magic circle, after we threw all the buttons down, that just gets put around all the TVs as another part of the magic stuff that just doesn't make sense when Cochrane, dissolves away. I will say the one thing that was really successful in this is the reveal that Ellie was a bot in the car, because it just didn't really click to me that was even a possibility.
Right.
But like literal like seconds before we had the very clear reveal that she was a robot, I was like, oh fuck, she's a robot.
She hasn't said a word since he retrieved her.
That's exactly what it was. I was like, she's been so quiet, like there's been no reaction. It's like, it's so odd, and she has like that, kind of
because the rest of this movie, this bitch hasn't shut up.
Right. But she has had like a handful of those scenes where it's like she kind of has that like kind of blank, just like stare. So I was like, it didn't look abnormal compared to like the other robots that were just these like,
right.
Fucking guys.
Yeah.
So awesome reveal. That was like the only like really good. I was like, oh shit, that got me.
Yeah.
That was really good. And then just the crashing, the arm being ripped off, the phantom arm choking him and everything. I was like, this is so good.
Yeah. Yeah, the last scene is good. I mean, the last 10ish minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's
not
pretty
bad.
satisfying. Yeah. I wish we would have done a lot better to get ourselves there for sure.
Again, cut a lot of gaps. Probably, 2 less sexual encounters with Chalice and Ellie, right? I mean, whatever.
Yeah. I also kind of would have enjoyed if Cochrane was on a little bit more of it, because they, were like, oh, he's, he loves jokes and gags and everything. So it's like,
no jokes, no gags.
Right.
You just look at, and then that fucking, what was that dude's last name?
Mein Kampf.
No, he had a weird last name. He was like Billy
Kempfer?
Kempfer. There we go. I knew there was a pff sound. I just couldn't remember what it was. Oh my God. Anyway, he's like, yeah, I used to stare at that thing for hours, and they show you like this little toy with like Indians on it, and they're literally like going side to side. He's like, you used to look at that for hours?
He's like, oh, I did some acid beforehand, so really helped pass the time. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a wasted thing, to where we could have made Cochrane a lot more like kind of maniacal in the way he was going about this, rather than like the ritualistic kind of thing. I thought that would have made it kind of more fun.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know. I just the whole ending sequence I think would have been a little bit cooler if it was just like a ha ha, like joke's on you, bunch of kids fucking faces melting, teleporting bugs and shit. Like
whoopee cushions.
I'm such a jokester. But like I kind of think it almost like if we added in some of like the I don't know, like not something quite like how like like Freddy has like some of that like weird kind of twisted dark humor stuff that gets brought up in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but like something kind of like that would have just made him a little bit more interesting. And kind of connect just some of the random bits of information we wasted screen time on. But
so I just got a couple live tweets that fit for this one, just the sort of live reaction type shit. So the power of Stonehenge is head melting and a bug snake nest laser. Word. Is the narration voice on the commercial Tom Atkins? Fucking Dr. Chow. Like, does that not sound like him? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. Like, oh, hey, look, I'm on this commercial again. Wouldn't that be a great side plot, though? He went into the studio to record that, and he's like, oh, I guess I give him royalties. I hate this fucking commercial, but, it's money in the bank. Money in the bank. Did the kid on the bike flick his mom off?
Yes, he 100% did.
Because I kept watching it, but the hand's not really
It wasn't like a wave.
You can't really see
there,
it.
Yeah, he had to have been flipping him off.
I just love that. It was like, stay out of the street. Fuck you, mom.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Classic 80s kids.
Yeah. If a town had a curfew of 6 o'clock, I think I would just call the police on that.
Yeah.
But
not really, because the hobo is just still out and about.
Right. Tom went out to buy a bottle of liquor somewhere.
Let's talk about the hobo for just a second, right? Yeah. So the hobo is a hobo. He doesn't really have a home. He lives in, what was it, like a car or something, or like a box? I don't know.
It's like in a junkyard. Yeah.
So number one, in a town where everything is fucking weird and they brought in all these outside people and now you're basically the outsider, do you really think it's good to start giving all of this context and bitching to a random stranger you just met?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you know that guy doesn't work at the factory and is in on the whole shebang?
Yeah.
It just seemed like
For
that
all
was
you just got your head pulled off because that guy told on you. Yeah.
And the cheesiest, goofiest fucking squishing noise as the head. It just felt like Nickelodeon sound effect level of the head being pulled off. It was
yeah. Well, a lot of the kills here were cheesy too.
And there wasn't enough of them. Not a lot of people died in this, and I think that was a shame. We should have killed more people.
Yeah. More test subjects. If there's a way you're killing people, that's the whole premise of the movie.
Yeah.
Show it happening multiple times.
Because we need to know what this atrocity on a large scale looks like,
right.
And that's what, those early killers should be building up to.
Right. The bots almost kind of did kills Michael Myers style. Or at least what was that one? Teddy, the morgue girl.
Okay.
Who was supposed to be getting information for him, and then it's drilled into her ear, and then you don't even show that.
Yeah, and that would have been a cool gory kill. We love that shit.
The whole thing with a horror movie is I'm not saying come on, I want to see that bitch's brains or what, but a
little bit.
It's a horror movie. This is kind of the point,
What I like is just that
we gotta figure out horror movie grading too. Yeah. That's probably a pod of just sitting here, just okay, anyway.
But I love that the robot knew the exact drawer that had this drill though, and that was the only thing in that drawer was just this miscellaneous drill.
Yeah.
So convenient.
Very convenient.
Yeah. And also just the discovery of something else going on with this explosion at the exact millisecond that, she gets killed. It's bitch, have you not been staring at this thing for 4 days at this point? How have you not pieced anything together until this exact second where they've come to find you and kill you?
Yeah. I just love that the hobo's hey, I ain't got no disease. And then Dan, who's a doctor, is well, it's enough vetting for me.
Right.
I still don't know why Bridget or whatever her name is honked. They kind of made it look like it could have been an accident, but it also kind of looked like she could have just been waiting for Ellie to walk by, and then she was like, bah! It was oh, I didn't mean to scare you. Well, what'd you mean to do?
Yeah. It honestly would have been better if she was she walked out just cracking up because she thought she was funny as shit, she was just being a bitch. Yeah. That would have been better than just oops, my bad. I did it on purpose. I just have to apologize for it now.
Yeah. I love that Dan stops the girl he's in bed with to ask if he is now a pedophile.
Yeah, this was way too late in the game to be how old are you? Granted,
2 bangs later.
It didn't really cross my mind, but I was you know what? She does look young as shit. He looks old, and she just looks very teenagery.
I guess to me, if she's in, she's saying she's from LA and she's in town, or whatever, and she's not accompanied by anybody else. I guess
It's pretty implied she'd be an adult.
She didn't like look like a kid to me.
Yeah,
you know what I
she
mean?
just looked young.
But yeah, I'm sure there's people in jail right now that have the same explanation. So
They're listening to the podcast. They're like, "See,
what
could
I
happen
say?
to anyone.
What I say?
Could happen to anyone."
There's no way in hell that Dan makes that throw the mask onto the camera.
Yeah.
Fuck, no way in hell. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
See, what you don't know is that he did a lot of sports growing up. You know,
He's a big horseshoes guy.
Yeah, big horseshoes.
So it transfers into okay. That'd be pretty funny if after all that the arm ended up taking him out. Just Dan on the side of the road, strangled by the severed arm of the robot.
Yeah, death by stranger.
And you know, called the headmaster of all TV, but we talked about that. So that's all I got, man.
That's roughly all I got. There was one thing I wanted to comment, and just with the kind of like video game like side questy setup of when they get to the motel and we kind of meet Bridget and Buddy's family and everything. I was like, if this was a video game, like you would know like this guy, the motel owner, and Bridget, like these are three people that we're gonna have to follow up with and get side quests for because they're relevant to the main plot.
Yeah.
I was like, for some reason, that just felt like the most like video gamey setup of just like, oh, here's all these things in quick successions. Here's your new map markers. Quest status updated.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it had me cracking up a little bit there.
No, that's funny. And then those opening credits, something I meant to mention too, was things like the music accompanying the lines coming on the screen. Like,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. It just went on for like way too long. I
It
felt
did.
like.
Yeah, and yeah, we could have gotten there a lot faster. And I will say, just in kind of a final note of like the audio, like the really iconic soundtrack that comes from Halloween, and then just like nothing was really as cool in this one. There was a song that played in the beginning of the movie after like that intro credit that was kind of like lit and really fun, but there wasn't like that one thing that just kind of carried it through. And I know that's hard to have a hit iconic song, you know, for every movie that would have been planned, you know, I'm sure for this kind of series, but it was kind of a letdown. I was waiting for like a banger to come in and kind of be repeated heavily throughout, and we never got it.
Well, and it did sound like I'm pretty sure. I mean, obviously, we have the power of the internet. We could look this up right now, but I'm just not going to.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure it said John Carpenter composed this one.
Okay.
Which he also, if I'm remembering right, you know, wrote, directed, composed the first Halloween movie.
Okay.
And I felt like you could definitely feel his signature on the music, soundtrack, effects, all that shit,
Yeah.
right? Because
It definitely seemed like things were like
had those sound effects, like, you know, in Halloween where, you know, like Michael's, you know, in the corner and you have that like, you know, whatever. I can't. Mouth sounds aren't gonna do any justice to how those are, but and then in this movie, every time one of those robots came around the corner, or like, you know, he had to like duck down when he was running in the street, you know, they had some sort of like odd sound effect, and it was like that. It was like Halloween when it came out, but it was 80s-ified.
Sure.
If that makes sense, you know.
And that's
So
a
it's
hard
like
thing
same
to
dude,
nail and
but
get
just
right.
in the 80s,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know. I thought that was interesting, how you could just kind of feel his signature on it. So
Gotcha.
Anyway, anything else?
No.
All right. Well, thanks for watching or listening. You know, hit us up on the Instagram, the Twitters. Email us at consequences.hotline, yahoo.com. Like, subscribe to us on the YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc., etc., etc. And thanks for being here. Check out episode number 76 from last year for more, Halloween series content. And there's also other horror movies from that last year. And there's other horror movies this year coming up. So thank you and goodbye.